On the operating table, a fat man was rapidly gaining weight, scaring the doctors who ran away shouting holy shit. Those who didn't escape were crushed into pulp. Fat man kept getting fatter, eventually becoming bigger than a building. At this moment he was extremely hungry. Suddenly a nearby building caught his attention. He licked his lips at the woman inside the building, then couldn't resist reaching his hand inside. Just as the woman was about to be caught as food, it turned out his target was actually a plate of roasted chicken legs. This left the woman completely confused, thinking, am I not tasty enough? But the chicken legs weren't even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. Suddenly the fleeing people stopped. Turns out the fat man started burping after eating the chicken legs. A massive amount of gas made rumbling sounds in his stomach. Finally the fat man couldn't hold it anymore, and instantly released everything. In the corner, a homeless man smelled chicken leg-flavored fart for the first time. He immediately lit a match, wanting to smoke a cigarette to celebrate, which ended up triggering a czar fart bomb. After all that, it was actually the fat man's daydream. The fat man was a senior professor at a university. This day he returned to school to teach as usual, only to find the school in complete chaos. Rats were everywhere. One shot directly from the janitor's spray gun, hitting a woman's sandwich perfectly. Another went straight into someone's mouth, instantly sending the woman to the afterlife. Even worse, one crawled into a man's pants, transforming into a big boss, leaving a young girl completely stunned. The scene made it look like a zombie rat outbreak. The professor was panicking internally, because these rats were his creation. The principal in his office couldn't focus on work, making him grit his teeth in anger. So the next day he called the professor to his office, threatening him that if it happened again, he would be fired immediately. Then a rat on the chandelier dropped some feces, which fell right into the coffee. Although the professor saw it, he didn't dare to mention it, then excused himself by saying he had class. The angry principal was thirsty, so he picked up the coffee and drank it, thinking this taste is really something else. Just then the exhausted rat fell down. The impact splashed coffee all over the principal's face. Helpless, he picked up the coffee, and had a quantum entanglement battle with the rat. The smug professor returned to class, but he was too fat, weighing a full 800 pounds. His fat belly erased the knowledge points he just wrote, making the students secretly laugh at him. Fortunately, the class bell rang. Watching the students leave, the professor breathed a sigh of relief. Then he opened the drawer, took out a Snickers bar from inside, and started eating it. The delicious taste on his tongue made him forget the embarrassing situation earlier. Although he wasn't well liked at school due to his obesity, his colleague, a black woman, found him quite charismatic, and was very interested in his research. This made the professor feel flattered. That night the professor went to the black woman's home, and asked her out on a date. Unexpectedly, she agreed, making the professor so happy he started dancing on the spot. Back home, his adrenaline kept rising. Ignoring his neighbor's feelings, he turned on the DVD player and played music, then started dancing seductively. This sexy figure was enough to captivate millions of young women. He also started daydreaming, dreaming of passionately kissing the black woman on the beach. But he was too fat. What should have been a romantic atmosphere turned into a horror movie because of him. Scaring him awake from his dream, he immediately decided to lose weight and change himself. For love, he had to give it his all. To lose weight, the fat man turned himself into a porcupine with acupuncture, then exercised with beautiful women, then practiced boxing to improve his reflexes, even spent a fortune on personal trainers. But he was just too fat. It's a full 800 gene, approximately 400 kg. He would get exhausted and collapse after just a little training. The beautiful women could bounce easily on the trampoline, but when he stood on it, he directly weighed the trampoline down so much it couldn't breathe. He went to bench press to train his arm strength. As a result, the fitness equipment was directly crushed. Muscular hunks were training their muscles like crazy, while he, back-to-back, used Snickers bars to train his fat. Fortunately, quantitative change can lead to qualitative change. After months of training, it finally paid off. His jump rope frequency was so fast even the coach couldn't keep up. Aerobics were also easily mastered. The beautiful women were left utterly stunned. They cheered excitedly. They practically wanted to pledge themselves to him. Now he felt like a true muscle hunk. Though from the outside he still looked a bit chubby. Now he had only one thought. That was go on a date. That very night he went to a bar with a black girl. They casually found a seat and sat down. He thought they would spend a sweet evening. Unexpectedly, the rapper on stage deliberately picked on him, saying he was as fat as a pig. This made the professor lose all face in front of the black girl, but he could only endure it silently. After the date ended, the two parted ways. The professor returned home, feeling sad and alone. He grabbed colorful candies and went on a crazy binge. At this moment, only food could mend his wounded dignity. The scene shifts. The professor was lying on an operating table. His body was visibly expanding at an alarming rate. Soon he became bigger than a building. After eating a chicken leg, gas filled his entire body. Instantly, he couldn't hold it in and released it. Instantly, a typhoon swept through the entire city. As luck would have it, a homeless man lit a match. It turned out this was all a nightmare the professor was having. Scared him awake. He almost kicked the bucket. He was terrified. He resolved to make a change. So he chained and locked all the doors. After sealing all the windows, he began researching a weight loss potion. At this moment, the professor's concentration reached its peak. He used electrodes to monitor his body's metrics. In just a few hours, he actually succeeded in making the potion. The blue liquid looked very drinkable. Ever tried weight loss potion? This 800-gene fatty chugged it down in one go to lose weight. Immediately, the potion took effect. The fat throughout his body began burning intensely. The pain made him unsteady on his feet. He passed out. Then his whole body started deflating like a leaky balloon. He began to slim down. The rat watching had 10,000 thoughts running through its mind. Soon, the professor transformed into a dark, metallic-looking hunk. He was overjoyed. His dancing was absolutely world-class. Looking at his clothes now too big, no longer fitting his new physique, he first went to the shopping mall. He specifically bought sexy, tight-fitting clothes. Putting them on, he went to the gym to flirt with girls. An environment like this was something he wouldn't have dared to imagine before. Then he became the ultimate social butterfly. He wildly shouted in the crowd that he had lost weight. Not even food could shut him up. Feeling this still wasn't enough, he actually stood on the roof of the tallest school building and shouted, afraid someone might not know he had slimmed down. That night, he rented a luxury car. He drifted it to a stop right at the bar's entrance. This time, he was determined to have a proper date with the black girl. Entering the bar, he first rushed onto the stage. He sought revenge on the rapper who had humiliated him last time. The rapper was verbally destroyed, unable to fight back. In the end, he actually stuffed the rapper into a piano. The atmosphere in the venue was instantly pushed to a climax. Then he returned to the black girl, flashing his hunk credentials. The black girl was mesmerized by him. He thought tonight he would finally win over the black girl. Unexpectedly, the potion's effect wore off. His voice changed. His mouth swelled up. His belly started to bloat. In order not to expose himself, Dezhuang made an excuse and brushed it off. Turned around and slipped away. But on the way back, his face kept getting bigger. Finally bounced back successfully. His belly instantly grew large, crushing the luxury car's axle until it broke. Drifted to a stop by the roadside. But he was too fat and got stuck inside. Had to let firefighters cut him out from outside. The next day, his assistant advised him to stop drinking the potion. The side effects will turn you into a different person. But the professor, desperate for love, wouldn't listen at all. That day, while the assistant wasn't paying attention, he drank the potion again and transformed, and locked the assistant in a dark room. Then went out on a date with the black girl. The transformed professor not only became increasingly irritable, but also seemed very flirtatious. He actually played poker with 3 girls. The black girl found Big Strong very disgusting. She angrily left the club. The next day, the professor, back to his original form, was awakened by the black girl's voice. He nervously closed the door, just as he tried to push the black girl out of the house. The beautiful woman behind him pushed the door open and came out. The black girl thought the professor was just like Big Strong, a womanizer. She turned around and left angrily. But the professor had no memory of what happened last night. That night, he saw the videotape Big Strong left for him. Only then did he realize it was all Big Strong's scheme. He's planning to replace me.